Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot and welcome to today's reading. So, today we're looking into that tower and that change that's happening with your person. We've seen a lot of it that's been happening. We've already kind of started looking into it, and what we've discovered is it's not something that happens instantaneously. So, yesterday felt like one of those days where they were kind of getting a little bit pensive, evaluating those options. Today, let's look to see where they're at with it because it felt like in the extended yesterday, when we dug into it, that this was really logically the next place for us to go. So we're going to go ahead and do that. That's what we'll do today. So looking into it, this is going to be a general reading for this collective. Won't resonate with everyone. Shouldn't resonate with everyone. If it's you, go ahead and subscribe, hit like, get caught up. These readings are all very much connected, so this will be helpful if you're able to get caught up. We're going to read today with, I'm going to start with the Good Tarot. That's what that one's called. And this is the Untamed Mystery Tarot. And then we've got the Herbiary Oracle cards. This is what I'll use for Oracle cards whenever we get to that point, whether it is going to be at the end of this reading or if we go in and do an extended, then of course it will be at the end of that one. So if you get in here and you only see every once in a while you ever see an oracle card, it's because they're sitting at the end of the extended most of the time. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and let's look at their energy as it's happening today, because we know there's a lot of change. We felt the shift. It's been growing. We felt a lot kind of happening with them. But yeah, let's see what's happening with their energy as it starts out today. And I see two cards happening there. So we have the Six of Water and the Nine of Air. All right, so with the Six of Water, that is that feeling of, I don't want to make the same mistakes I made in the past. That's really what this is. With the Nine of Air, the anxiety. And the anxiety seems to be largely around making those mistakes of the past. The Two of Water, I'm afraid to partner. I'm afraid to trust. That is a realization of a fear of trust. This is kind of huge. So, if you talk to this person and if they're feeling vulnerable, which in this energy with this anxiety and this level of defensiveness that we've been seeing, you might not get it, but they would tell you that they're afraid to trust. And I was telling you yesterday in the extended that I kind of wanted to do a Divine Masculine Messages reading, but I wanted to do this one first. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see a couple of Divine Masculine messages start to come out, because they seem like they're spilling at the seams a little bit. And if it gets too crazy, maybe we'll get in and do them for the extended. But already I'm starting to feel a little bit of, I wish I could tell you, here's kind of what's going on. They're afraid to trust. They're afraid to partner. It isn't just that they've gotten burned on it, like they have. But this creates this would be so much simpler if I could just not do it, not think about it, not worry about it. Okay, so we have the Hanged Man, something they haven't quite learned just yet. And with the Hanged Man, so they've got a new perspective that's coming in, but we've always got new perspectives coming in. This is one that impacts them dramatically from the perspective of emotion. So they're not able to, they haven't figured out a way to be completely honest with themselves from an emotional perspective. And that's a tough thing to do. We know we saw some truths coming in yesterday's energy, and there was that feeling of them being able to be at least temporarily honest, at least temporarily true to themselves. With the Empress, a feeling of not quite being ready to jump into what they're doing. So yesterday, if you recall, they weren't quite feeling ready, but they kind of were feeling like, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do this anyway. There was a feeling of some clarity, potential clarity, but they weren't feeling the clarity. So we saw the Six of Swords come up in the YouTube reading in the upright, and then we saw it come up in the reverse in the extended, and it was kind of like, well, they have this energy of clarity that's around them right now, but they're not necessarily feeling it. They're not necessarily, oh, wait, I was supposed to get that. Where was that? It was the Queen of Wands, and that was it. Nope, not it. All right. Here we go. The other one's an honorable mention. It was the Two of Wands, and it's about their values and the values that they're working through. Um, really, that's something they feel like they're putting on hold because it feels, again, like there's not enough clarity and there's just too much going on. Um, but I feel like there is actually enough clarity for them to sit and feel uncomfortable and a little bit like they're being kept in this difficult place. But it's really, they're being kept in a difficult place until they're able to accommodate some of the change and accommodate some of those truths. Yesterday, we saw a little bit of evidence of them being able to do that, or in the last reading, we saw a little evidence of them being able to do that. But it doesn't necessarily play out as it's not a simple, okay, now I understand. So we've got the Queen of Wands and the King of Wands coming out together. What we have here is fire energy, but it's a little bit of a slower fire with the Queen of Wands. So it isn't that there's a lot less passion in this, just a lot more of a tendency to slow down and make sure that they understand what it is that they want to do, make sure they understand what it is that they're doing. With the Queen of Wands, I need to understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. There's a strong sense of that, and it kind of plagues them, like they don't really want to have to understand that, but they can't get it out of their mind. It's the reason that they've been having these fantasies, and then they get real frustrated because they can't even convince themselves to believe what's happening in the fantasy long enough to have the fantasy. With the King of Wands, there is a bit of an energy of wanting to control the situation, but it's more of a, okay, let's get this going already. It's passion. It's ready to, all right, I understand the healing that needs to be done. So can we just kind of get on with it? But the problem is they're not really ready to get on with the healing that's being laid out in front of them yet. And that's what we see with that Empress card. Needs a little bit more patience from them. Oh, we don't want this one. Let's see here. Oh, my cards are going spilling. These cards are amazingly beautiful, but they slide pretty easily, and so sometimes you'll see that when I'm shuffling. King of Pentacles here in the reverse. The King of Pentacles is about... We just saw this, okay? We just saw this come out multiple times in the most recent extended. It was about... do they feel like they are worthy? Do they feel like they deserve the situation, or they can actually really make it work? There's a strong sense of them having a lot of questions about that, almost like that feeling of the, imposter syndrome. With the Emperor, they are overcompensating, so we saw that with the King of Wands a little bit there. With the Emperor, they're overcompensating. They don't feel quite ready for this, and so they are trying to control it. They're trying to strong arm it. This is their healing that they're trying to strong arm. Okay, so they feel like they want this to move more quickly than it does. I don't get the sense that they stick with that for too long, because when they start to understand what the vulnerability means, it calms them back down a little bit, or not really calms them back down so much as they realize, all right, you know what, maybe I'm not completely ready to move forward with this. And the High Priestess is basically giving them just enough information for them to realize, all right, I probably want to be a little bit more patient here. Honestly, so this is kind of a start, stop sort of energy. They're very afraid, but they're impatient to stay in the same sort of space. But when they consider what feels like to get out of that space, they realize they don't necessarily feel ready. They kind of want to push it, but they're uncomfortable sitting here, but they're having a hard time getting their mind wrapped around the fact that in order to get past this, they're going to have to make progress. The next step isn't easier than this one. So getting out of this does not necessarily put them in a place that they are going to find easier to deal with. All right, let's get a look at what's happening in the changes with them right now, because there's a lot of, they're like almost at a boil in this energy. It's very back and forth, a lot of pressure. And the changes have felt like a lot of pressure, a lot of noise, a lot of static energy coming from them, a lot of intensity, a lot of, hey, I'm getting closer to being able to make a decision, but still very afraid to figure out which road to walk down because I'm not sure where the obligations stand. Not sure what my requirements are. What do I get for this? What do I have to do for this? Um, like I said, they're getting that. And I don't think I said it today. I think I said it in our last reading. They're getting the upper hand on whatever this sort of addictive situation is, but it seems like it's coming and going. It's very temporary. They've aligned with the truth that they need to connect with, but they're still thinking. There's still a lot of overthinking and anxiety. With this five of air, there's a lot of that overthinking, anxiety, consternation sort of energy. It's just hasn't landed yet. It's like, well, if there's this, then we've got all these things to consider. If it's that, we've got other things to consider. And it's like, they aren't making it far enough down a path to be able to think things through. And thinking things through is something that they should be fine at once they get to that point in the process. So there's our 7 of water again. Let's see what I dropped. Okay. I dropped some face down cards. 7 of water is just like the 7 of cups. So we've seen this. This is them saying what we were just talking about a couple minutes ago. It was, I don't know which option to take, and I can't get far enough down any of the options to really understand what the implications of them are. So they end up in this place of indecision, consternation, not being able to decide which way to go, and honestly getting stuck in a triggered state too. So the 3 of air has them being stuck in a little bit of a triggered state, but it's triggered state that you did not cause. Okay, so this is something that you may not quite realize or may not quite know about, or not all the details about it. It feels very much like it's happening with regard to that third party. Okay, so we have the moon information. Oh, secrets coming out. Yeah, you may not know about this, and it's impacting them directly. With the Ace of Pentacles, that door that they've been trying to open feels like it's slamming closed again. So this is frustration that's coming from within their life that's causing them to respond poorly and maybe not be able to give in to the change that's happening. So we've seen a lot of them not wanting to give in to that change, and now here maybe we see a little bit about why. And it's about curveballs being thrown to them from in their situation. So they know deep down that there is success to be had for them in this situation, but they don't know how to get to it. We've got a 6 of Wands, which is like faith. In this case, it's, I know I'm going to be successful, but they're still in the middle of the battle. So oftentimes the 6 of Wands is going to be a success at the end of a battle, but then this is a long battle that's very much still continuing to rage on. We have the Knight of Swords. This is a motion or strong behavior that I feel like they lash out with something in the middle of all this. It doesn't feel especially healthy, but it does feel like something that takes a little bit of the pressure off. So fantasy doesn't help them. Reality doesn't help them. They're kind of not sure what to do next, and this is a frustrating feeling for them. What they do does not create a lot of positivity for them. It's like what we were talking about the other day with the need for damage control, or depending on how far they get with it, it's more of a matter of damage repair. So they do create a need for some damage repair over here, but I don't know that it's super extensive. I think it's more of a, they throw a little bit of a fit, but it doesn't necessarily require them to do extensive political cleanup or anything like that. Now, with the 5 of Wands, we see a little bit of a sense of them feeling like they are giving up based on a threat that doesn't feel like a fair threat. This feels very much like a third-party oriented situation. So this is could be getting into a family and the person saying, okay, so if you leave, you aren't going to be able to see your kids. Or it could be a situation where if you do X, Y, or Z thing in this work situation, you are no longer going to have access to these customers, or something that happens to them politically, some sort of threat that comes out, and it's not a fair threat, but for whatever reason, they can't call anyone on it. There is something here about they can't move forward with it if if this threat isn't resolved externally. So they're not able to resolve this threat. I don't feel like it's something that you're necessarily able to do, but we'll see what happens when we get over here to the advice section. I wanted to focus on the wonderful things coming for you, but I am certainly not above getting some advice to come out there. We're always happy to see advice come out there. Although advice can come out in here as well, and we just haven't really gotten much of that yet. So we've got the King of Swords, whatever's happening here. So they're going into the thick of it. This is not coming out. This is going in. They are getting into a tougher situation emotionally right now. They're diving down into the thick of it. So you're going to start to be able to see why it is that maybe they've been avoiding this change, which up until the last reading that we did, we were seeing a lot of avoidance of this change. So they're diving in there, but I don't feel like the rest of it is super clear as to what they're finding there. 10 of Wands in the reverse, something that feels overwhelming and needs some time. Let me see what I dropped. Okay. So it's overwhelming, it needs some time, and it feels like I started feeling it when I laid this card down. We are not going to go to an extended because it does need a little bit of time to kind of evolve and develop. This reading, just this portion of this reading has given me a weird headache. And I wonder if it's like a fraction of what they're getting. But it's like there's this static, I can't win if I do, I can't win if I don't, sort of back and forth. There's a feeling of a threat, some sort of injustice, and something that needs a little bit of time to evolve. We are going to give it that time to evolve by not jumping into the extended, although we reserve the right to potentially do divine masculine messages when we come into our next reading. Let's get some advice for you, though. And this is going to be not just advice for you, because again, I'm like, advice can always come out over here, and it really felt like it was pretty far from wanting to come out. We're going to look into what you need to know given the rest of what's on this table. We're going to get into what you need to know given what's headed your direction. And we've seen some pretty nice things headed your direction. You've got a lot of good coming for you, a lot of abundance. There's a new horizon. There's so much that is coming out for you that, like, you have to be choosy about it. I was saying that you're gonna have to make decisions between some things, and you'll end up having to sacrifice one of your options. But you learn some really enjoyable lessons in this round. Now, this is something that helps to enhance your faith in yourself. You're going on a path that feels a little different from what you've done in the past. Feels also a little different from what you've learned with this person. These lessons come to you a little bit more gently, and they are going to be useful as you approach this situation, or because you're not lifting out of this situation. You're simply accommodating something new. You got the Queen of Earth. You're going to be tested in your areas of self-worth, but I think you pass with flying colors. So you're going to be, there'll be something in here that causes you to feel a little bit questioning, like you're going to question your self-worth. Ace of Air. That's what fell on the floor. So you're going to be questioning your self-worth, and I think your answer is going to be, why, yes, I am worthy. I am going to require this to be what I deserve, you know. With the Ace of Air, there's a lot of truth that comes from this. A lot of truth stems from this behavior, and it's all of a sudden when you make this realization that you're not going to accept less than your worth, that's where you really start seeing the impact from that Ace of Air and the truth coming in and saying, oh yeah, well, here's more information for you. And it's going to end up being very enjoyable. So this is a positive lesson, and it's something that just seems to kind of compound on itself, but in a very positive way. It's like, oh yeah, here's something else that you're going to enjoy. You do have something that you need to let go of, but I feel like it's very easy for you to let go of. At the point when you are being asked to let go of it, you have already realized that it's not something that you benefit from holding on to. So this is good. It feels like a big step for you, though, as far as releasing something that you don't have control over. So sometimes we get you gotta determine whether you have control over it before you can determine whether you're going to carry too much of the weight of responsibility around it. This is a place where you're going to get to that crossroads. You're going to take a look at something and say, I don't carry enough control of this for me to continue carrying the burden of it. So I'm going to go ahead and lay this down, and you will never look back. Definitely has that feeling. The Eight of Wands here in the reverse, it's a nice, calm path. There's nothing rushed about it, nothing that makes you feel like you're on fire. What did I drop? Got something. Ten of Pentacles. Your life's going to change. Your life changes again, but it changes in a way that ultimately feels very positive. I feel like that sense of things, like that frantic, rushing kind of energy that you may have had a little of in the past here, maybe a lot of in the past, you're going to get less of that as time goes on. And that star card, you're going to be aware. So we have the star up here, we have the star down here. It's coming out both decks, coming out of both decks for you. And what I especially see here is this sense of arriving. It's not necessarily you suddenly have all the money and resources that you've always wanted, although you may. I don't feel like it's about that. This is emotional arrival. This is something where you realize that you really are exactly where you need to be. You don't need to be moving any more quickly. You don't need to be moving any more slowly. Everything feels pretty good. Here with the Two of Pentacles, though, there's that feeling of everything just balances for a little while, and you don't even, it doesn't even give you that feeling like realizing it is going to cause the other shoe to drop. Like sometimes you'll be like, oh gosh, I probably should never have said that. Now it's all going to fall apart. It doesn't. And it doesn't even feel like it's going to. There's just a sense of ongoing balance and things working properly because they're supposed to be, not because of some clever thing that you put together and rigged with like chewing gum and baler's twine. This is something that is legitimate and genuine. You have the Temperance card in the reverse, so that feels like a lack of balance, but it is also it's the very lack of balance that causes you to continue to go forward like, okay, I know I'm not there yet because I haven't quite figured out some of the things that I need to figure out. Again, we just saw the Hierophant in the reverse. If you saw the last reading, you saw that I told you there was some advice coming in for you that's not especially useful. Like it's going to be bad advice for you. Maybe not bad advice overall, but it is something that for you is not going to be useful. The timing is bad. Something about it is bad that you want to, you'll know when it happens. Don't follow any advice blindly. Ooh. Just dropped some cards on the floor. Let's see how many more we need beyond the ones that come up. And then I'll go down and get those. All right, so the Six of Cups. This one is about, it's a card of thinking about the past. It's a card of having a lot of feelings and emotions that come up around the past, but not necessarily a lot of connection to those, or when you get in, it's like a picture that you've never been able to look at without pain before. But now you're going to be able to. So a little bit about like when we see that Three of Swords that comes up in the reverse, and it's like, oh, you get to use a lesson, but without having to experience the pain of when you initially learned it. So this is that same sort of vibe. You're going to get to go back to have a memory, but that memory doesn't hurt anymore. But maybe it did before. Definite truth coming out about yourself. And that's going to be what helps you to recognize this poor advice when you get it. So that Hierophant in the reverse does want to go ahead and come out. Just make sure that you clearly understand that all of the advice, you've got to take it through the does it resonate filter. If it doesn't, don't take it. Don't just run with it just because it was there and you trust the source. The source could be incredibly well-intentioned and it could be the wrong advice for you at that time. Doesn't matter who it is. So I was mentioning, this could be you're listening to one of my readings and something just doesn't fit right. Well, don't do that. Whatever that thing is, maybe you're not in the right place on that timeline and you may want to hold back. Let's grab that Herbiary Oracle. So I mentioned we would do this as the Oracle cards if we decided to go this way. And I think I'm done with this deck, so I'm not going to worry about those ones I dropped. But we're jumping in to get you an Oracle card, a little bit more advice for you and just something for you to think about as we're walking away from this reading. So we wanted to understand what was happening with your person and realize that we need to give it a little bit of time to develop. Here we have a pocket of protection. This is your time to develop. Like, this is the pocket of protection is a protection that is issued to you based on the protectors that you have in your life. So you have a network of protection around you that is going to be the equivalent of your spirit guides, folks who came before you, well meaning energy, well meaning people who continue to live in this world with you. But this pocket of protection is something that helps to enable you to grow, even in a place where maybe you've also shed your skin and you're not quite hardened to the point where you're ready to be out there in the rest of the world. This is what allows it to happen. This is what allows you to have what you need when you need it. It's also the secret to abundance, to trust in this pocket of protection and that things will come to you when you need them. That's part of how that works. So, like I said, I'm not going to go into an extended today because we need to give this a little bit of time to grow, a little bit of time to evolve. We'll jump into this again in the next reading and just kind of see what's happening with it. And if we are so inclined, we may even do a Divine Masculine Messages reading. So, looking forward to seeing you in that next reading, whether we go with Divine Masculine Messages or whether we decide to go farther into this, just kind of see what's happening with their energy. But have a wonderful rest of the day and maybe a little bit of an opportunity to meditate on that trust and that pocket of protection. I'll see you next time.